You can't not notice the WAU Bike. It's a bit Marmite-like in its looks. People either love it or they hate it. But one thing's for sure, it is a conversation starter. So every time I took this bike out and stopped somewhere, I had conversations with people. I had people riding alongside me asking about it. You can't not notice this bike. Welcome to my review of the WAU Bike. So I had a loan of the WAU Bike for 3 weeks. And I was able to commute with it, take it out on the weekend, and just get a feel for how the bike is to ride. WAU is a company, a UK company based in Nottingham. They sell their bikes through their website. So if you want to test ride one, you have to make arrangements and go up to Nottingham to do so. So hopefully this video will help you decide if this bike is for you, if it's worth going there to test ride it, or if you want to order it online and own your own. When the WAU Bike was dropped off with me, I got to meet the CEO of the company, and he gave me a little bit of background and what they're aiming to achieve. And they just want to be part of providing an enjoyable but more sustainable way to get around cities. They believe e-bikes are a great solution to a lot of city and transport environmental problems, and they want to be part of the solution. So they have built a bike that has a lot of things included that aren't normally included when you first buy a bike. So for example, they have integrated the rear lights of the bike into the bike frame. These lights are brake lights, so when you put on the brakes, they get brighter, and they can be used in addition to arm signals as turn signals. They are definitely thinking, you know, what can we do to make a bike the obvious choice for getting around your city? Teddy, come on, darling, come on. Do you want to be in the video? You can't not notice this bike. Someone said it looked like a sail. Another guy really liked it because he said it reminded him more of a motorbike, which he likes. So yeah, people love it or hate it, but they definitely notice it either way. So looks-wise, that's up to you to decide. But the reason for the looks of the WAU Bike is because they have put the battery and the computer and the brains of the bike in the middle of the frame. And because the WAU Bike has a 100-mile range, and there's even a 200+ mile range version of it with 2 batteries. The battery is quite large, it has a good capacity, and this is how they placed it, along with the brains of the bike. So the bike also has built-in GPS, so you can track your bike if it gets stolen. It sets off an alarm on the app to let you know your bike is moving when it shouldn't be, and then you can track where it's going. A great feature, because e-bikes, let's face it, they aren't cheap, and you want to be able to protect your bike. Because it's no point in having a bike to run around town to do errands if you're scared to leave it locked up somewhere, and you eventually are going to have to lock it up outside, somewhere less secure than inside your house. So having that GPS tracking and alarm feature is fantastic. What happens is if the bike gets moved slightly, there's an alarm that goes off, but a warning first, and a warning alarm, and then the alarm builds up and gets louder. I'll just give you a quick demonstration of it so you can see what I mean. The version of the WAU Bike I had, there's 3 versions, was the 100-mile range version, and it weighed 24 kilos, and a lot of people were surprised to hear how much it weighed, but that's pretty on par with most other e-bikes out there, and keeping in mind that the range of this bike is a lot further than most other e-bikes out there that weigh that. And also it has hydraulic front suspension, which is fantastic. So despite having the suspension and the longer range battery, it's pretty on par with other e-bikes weight-wise, and it is rideable without the battery. So if the battery does go flat, it is rideable. It's not as much fun. I wouldn't want to go up any big hills, but it's definitely rideable. All right, so how is the bike to ride? I loved it. It was peppy, it was fun, the ramping up was smooth, the cutting out once you get over 15.5 miles an hour, once the assist cut out at that point, it didn't just stop, it just, slowly cut out. It was a lot of fun to ride, basically. This hydraulics and the larger tires smoothed out, the rumble in the road. The noise of the actual motor, you can't hear it in city traffic. You could hear it on a quiet path, the hum, but it was, pretty quiet. It wasn't anything irritating or overly loud. And like I said, you can't even hear it in city traffic. So good experience with the ride, the peppiness, the hydraulic brakes, fantastic braking power. So if you like to ride aggressively, no problems there, no problems in the rain. So it's a great ride. They really put attention to detail in that area to make it enjoyable. The one thing I did have to get used to about the ride was the fact that it is cadence based, and all the other e-bikes I've ridden so far have been torque based. So you put your foot down and you put some power in the push of the pedal, and the bike reacts to that power, whereas cadence based is reacting to the speed at which you pedal. This meant that it was really important when you came to a full stop that you geared down, so that when you started, you could start at a higher cadence. That just took some getting used to for me, because of the other e-bikes I'm used to using are torque-based. So once you get used to that and make sure and become more conscious of gearing down, which you should do anyway when you come to a stop, makes it easier to push off, especially with a heavier bike. So this bike only comes in one size. They say it's good for people from a range of height from 5'3" to 6'4". I'm 5'5.5", that's 168 centimeters. Nathan, who also rode it, is 6 foot tall. The owner of the company, I'd say he's at least 6'4" himself. So he obviously rides it. What we found was, for me, and I'll show you some pictures here, the standover height was to my max of comfort. It's about the same as my Brody bike, which is actually technically one size too big for me. So the standover height of this bike is the max I would go to for comfort of handling and just standing over it. So I have a hard time to believe that someone 5'3" would be comfortable riding this bike. And I have said that to the owner of the company, that I think that would be a bit short for this bike. And because of how the battery is housed in the frame, I think in future it would be nice to see two-sized frames, but I don't know how they'll manage to fit the battery in a smaller frame. Nathan enjoyed the ride, and the reason we can both ride this bike is because the handlebars, because of the stem, can be brought closer to the rider to shorten the reach. So that's how they're able to get a range of height. Now, the saddle, obviously, height has to be adjusted for me between Nathan and I. So I was quite comfortable. I brought the handlebars closer to me, lowered the saddle, good to go. Nathan found that the saddle didn't quite go high enough for him, so he'd have to get a longer seat post to get the position he would truly be happy with. But he went out for a 30-mile ride through some country roads and had an absolute blast on it, despite the fact the saddle was a couple of centimeters too short for him. The WAU bike that I had was a 100-mile range, and so that battery does take some time to charge, but they have built a battery charger that's as efficient as possible to make sure to minimize the amount of time it takes to charge. And there is even a fast charger you can upgrade to that charges even faster than the one I had. But in order to charge efficiently, they have had to introduce a fan into the charger. So, just to warn you, you wouldn't want it in your bedroom at night while you're sleeping while you charge it. You'll probably want to find an area away from where you sleep to charge it. But it's really no problem because you so seldom have to charge the battery. On the bike I had on loan, I had the upgraded color screen, which is great. It's beautiful. It tells you all sorts of information, how fast you're going, how much battery you have left as far as the percentage of battery you have left. It has an odometer, how far you've gone, and all the rest of it. And a beautiful color display, which you can also use to charge a light or your phone, which is a nice bonus to have. But for me, I think I would be okay with the standard black and white screen. When I'm riding around town, I really just want to know I have battery left. If I wanted to know all the other stats, I'd probably get out my Garmin computer or use my phone and that kind of thing. My concern mostly would be if I was parking this bike outside shops running errands, is that color display might draw unwanted attention because it does look like a smartphone. So yeah, display is lovely, all kinds of great information, but something to consider if you want to save some money, maybe stick with the black and white display. You will lose the ability to be able to charge things from the bike because that color display has the USB port to charge things off of the bike battery with. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that this bike has built-in rear lights, and turn signals are part of those rear lights. And there's a switch that you can use for indication of which way you're turning. So a couple of things. You still have to use arm signals because there's no lights on the front of the bike to indicate which way you're turning, and so you need to clearly communicate to everyone around you what you're doing. So hand signals would still be required. So I felt like having to hand signal and turn on the switch, then turn off the switch when I completed my turn was just more faff than I was interested in getting involved in. It would be amazing if there was a button on each handlebar each side. So if you're going right, you press the button on, your right handlebar, and left on the left. But as it stands right now, it's a switch you flick to turn it on, then you have to flick it back to the middle. Wearing gloves in the winter, it wasn't necessarily completely obvious to me if I had the switch in the right position. So now I'm worrying about, is the light turn signal on? Is it off? All that faff, and then still having to use my hands to signal. So I didn't use it for that, but I loved the fact that if I braked, they got brighter, so people knew I was slowing down. Just fantastic, and I think it's the right direction for bikes to be going in. I think bikes need to become a little bit more modern as they become more and more used for city transport, and I just think it's the right way forward. So hopefully in a few more iterations, there'll be some front indicators and some better, more intuitive turn signal buttons. What I liked about this bike, it was a fast, peppy, fun to ride bike. It has the GPS tracking, so you have an alarm system, so it gave me, some peace of mind when I had it parked somewhere. The amazing range, not having to worry about charging your battery very often. And I just think this bike, when you look at the price breakdown, which I'll put in the description below, is fantastic value for money. When you include hydraulic brakes, hydraulic suspension, rear lights, when you add up all of that as a base bike and the price that they're charging and the range of the battery, and you compare that to another e-bike, the value for money right now is phenomenal. And they've also given me a code for you guys for £200 off, which I've included in the description with all the links. So if you think this bike might be for you, go check all of that out. But in reality, the value for bike you're getting is fantastic. So, what I would change. As I mentioned, the turn signal's a bit faffy. I think it's, going in the right direction for the future of bikes, but just need a little bit of improvement on the location of the buttons to make it a little bit more intuitive. And of course, then turn signals on the front. So then if you want to forego doing the hands as well, you just have one thing to think about. And then other than that, the only thing I would change is I would love to see this bike in 2 sizes so that truly, people on the shorter range would have a better option for them. I would probably even go for a slightly smaller frame if they offered it. Those are the 2 things about this bike I would change. Hopefully this is helpful to you if you're trying to decide if the WAU bike is for you. I know it's a difficult decision to make. It's a big purchase and they aren't available in stores to test ride. But if you are near Nottingham, I do encourage you to contact them. They can arrange a test ride for you. I'll put all the links and the pricing and information below, and including the £200 off discount code. And any of you out there who have it, let us know how you've found your WAU bike. And any questions, do ask. I'm happy to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I will contact the company and get the answer for you. Thanks for watching. Until the next video.